Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Mr. Wildebohr,
Yes?
and Ms. Walker.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0.
Wait a minute, you guys, you didn't call my name.
We did call your name.
Well, I didn't hear it, so I'm here.
Okay, well, welcome. Okay,
Thank you.
well, would you like, since you're here, would you like to vote on that? Adding a discussion of consulting, budget consulting 2025 to our agenda today.
Are we gonna have handouts for that?
Ms. Bradford? No, ma'am.
Just talking?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll vote yes for that, but I also wanted to add something to the agenda.
Okay, so that's a 7-0. Okay, and Ms. Craybill, again, welcome. And what would you like to add to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to add a discussion on submitting a resolution or a letter of support for not overriding the governor's veto for opportunity scholarship vouchers.
Okay, we have a motion to, and that would be to add for today, correct?
Add for today, yes, because I mean we're losing millions of dollars as we speak.
Okay, so there's a motion from Ms. Craybill. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second from Ms. Walker. Any discussion?
Yes, can I just add a little bit of information in there?
You may.
The reason I wanted to bring this up right now instead of at the board meeting is because the General Assembly is slated to go back the week of November the 18th to have a session, and they were going to vote on this. And our meeting is not until November 12th, so I didn't know if our suggestion would be heard in time for that. But I just wanted folks to know that 603 students have left our county this fall with opportunity scholarship vouchers, and to the tune of $4,586,418 using the $7,600 per pupil allotment. So $4 million could go a long way if this money was not diverted from the schools and it was given to our district. So that's why I'm bringing it up, because we're on a timeline.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Ms. Bradford?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will vote no to that. That's something that we would need to study, have a handout on, and I am fully in favor of parents having the choice of where they send their child to school, even if it does hurt us. I believe that when we become excellent, then all the students will come back to our school district. So I will be voting no.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mr. McManus?
I have to add to what Ms. Bradford said. The problem with the private sector that we give money to is that they're not, held accountable. They're not tested. You don't have to be certified. Most of them are for money and making money. They don't have to have a college counselor. They don't have athletics. They don't run buses. There's no accountability. We're held under a big accountability, understandably spotlight. And we've been giving away now after this year $14 million. So I'll be voting to try to cancel your vote.
Okay.
But I'm here.
And again, right now, we're just voting whether we're going to discuss it later on. I know I've kind of given you everybody has some latitude to discuss it a little bit here, but we have done some of that discussion now. So, Ms. Bowie, would you please call the roll? Again, this is only to add the discussion of Ms. Crayville's recommendation.
Ms. Barnhart,
No.
Ms. Mason,
No.
Ms. Bradford,
No.
Ms. Craybill,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Mr. Wildebohr,
No.
and Ms. Walker.
Yes.
That's defeated 4-3. Any other discussion?
Can I please ask a question before we move forward? So if, I'm not certain if maybe the board members could send me their concerns, what they, to Ms. Bradford's point, on what she wants to see and study, and I will gather that information and send it to us, and then perhaps try and add it to the agenda on the 12th, and we will do our best to get our recommendation to our legislators. Is that a fair request?
I think you can do that for sure. Absolutely.
All right, so can I ask the board members to please send me their concerns and the issues, to quote Ms. Bradford, that she wants to study, so that I can gather that information for a healthy discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have an amended agenda at this point. Is there any other additions? If not, all in favor of the amended agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? I guess that carries 7-0. Yep, wait a minute. Okay, I skipped the pledge, so let's, and the invocation, so let's have our invocation and our pledge.
My name is Jermaine Arthur, and I am the pastor of the St. Luke Church here in the great city of Wilmington. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, in some circles you are known as teacher. So we ask that you would bless every teacher in our school system and every employee in every school. Christ came to us not as an adult, but as a child. So Lord, bless every child enrolled in our school system and those who will soon be school-aged children. And Lord, bless our school board members with wisdom, insight, and love as they lead us in the development of our most precious gifts, our children. This we ask in the name of Christ. Amen.
We've asked Mr. McManus to lead us in the pledge. Mr. McManus?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, board members, I do apologize for getting out of order, but we'll try to keep it in order from now on. I have asked Ms. Mason, in lieu of Ms. Craybill not being present with us, to keep up with the time for today, so that hopefully we can keep it, that under 4 hours. So Ms. Mason's going to do that for us. Thank you, Ms. Mason. We're going to go, like I say, until about 3 o'clock, see where we're at, and then we will go into closed session as needed, and then we may pop back out. So we'll start with the agenda. Please stop me if we have any questions. Call to order, roll call, approval of the agenda, invocation, national anthem, pledge. Who would like to do the pledge?
I'll do it.
Okay. Bradford? Approval of the minutes. Recognitions, administrative introductions, 10 minutes. Does that work?
Yes, and would we be able to add the excellence exemplified, the classified recognition?
Sure. So we'll have a
For a
C,
couple of minutes?
classified. So we will be able to do all that in 10 minutes, or do we need
Sure.
15?
Yes.
15? Classified, okay. She said 10. Student voice, we're going to stay at 10 minutes on that. Teacher voice, superintendent's report, 5 minutes. That work? Okay. Board chairperson's report, also 5. Information will be moved up there. The 2023-24 New Hanover County Schools Annual Accountability Report.
Mr. Chair?
Please notice that we have that here. Do we have that? Do we have that here? Or no? Okay. All right. So, and how long will that take?
That'll be 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Ms. Bradford?
Never mind, I'm good.
New Hanover County Schools Discipline Update. Ms. Barnum?
No, it's me.
Okay.
I shared with you guys this a couple of weeks ago in our report, sort of a response to the questions we've been getting about contacting parents through the discipline process.
Mhm.
So I'll be able to cover that in 5 minutes unless you guys have questions.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Would you mind me asking when we're going to get the report about our last town hall, and there was a table for discipline or safety or cell phones?
Oh,
or-
sure. I will
When
get
are we
that
gonna
out
get
to you guys
those?
by the end of the week.
Okay, thank you.
We have called audience at 60 minutes, so you said 5 minutes,
I
right?
can do 5 minutes.
Okay. Call audience at 60 minutes. Then we're going to go through each one of the consensus items, which is 5 minutes unless we have any discussion. And again, now would be the time to ask any deep questions. Disposal of surplus property.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I would love for Ms. Barnum to speak to some of those. I see a variety of different supports for our EC and for our multilingual students, and so I just want to let the public see and hear some of the different supports that we are providing for these groups. I know that our team works effortlessly to continue to provide for those, but there are a couple of different things in here, and so if Ms. Barnum wants to broad stroke it or intentionally pull apart some, I'd love for her to just speak to that for a moment.
Are you speaking to any specific ones, like
Well,
B?
why don't we go, let's, so in case somebody has a question on one
Okay,
above it,
one by one.
we'll go ahead and then,
Thank
so
you,
we'll
sir.
just stop whenever we get to one you want to discuss. North Carolina education lottery applications.
Yes.
Anybody? Ms. Bradford?
I had asked for staff to update us. Just tell us, when this funds, and just the process, because people make comments about the lottery all the time. You're not getting any lottery money. When did you get your lottery money? What'd you spend it on? So just like 2 sentences, Mr. Anderson, just update us, remind us, refresh us about lottery funds.
Sure. So the lottery funds for construction or capital come in the form of 2 PRCs, state lottery and renovation and repair. On the budget summary sheet each year when you approve the capital budget, you'll see those 2 line items as projected revenue. We receive those funds quarterly, and in the budget process, we project out what we think we will receive over the course of the year to cover the proposed capital projects. In this year's capital budget, we had a little over $2 million in lottery. Last year it was a little over 1.8 million, and the year before that it was just over 3 million. So it will vary from year to year based on the lottery proceeds that the state receives in our allocation. It'll also vary as we complete projects. We close those projects out, submit a final report. If there's any savings in those projects, that savings falls back into the pot of money for New Hanover County Schools and can be reallocated.
So follow up. So when people say, how come you're not spending the lottery money on literacy? The answer would be that the lottery money is for capital repairs, period. End of sentence, right? Hard stop.
That's correct. There's some restrictions. It's got to be on capital construction, cannot be used on administrative facilities, athletics, pre-K, or mobile units.
Thank you.
Barnhart?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Anderson, so this is a surplus of funding that we have gotten from the lottery, and we are reinvesting it primarily in New Hanover High School. Is that correct in my understanding of what this budget adjustment is?
That's correct. The actual revenue received was over our projections, and we had around a little over $1 million. And so we're submitting 3 applications. One is to replace the intercom system at New Hanover High School. One is to replace the DDC front end, which is our HVAC controls, at Gregory Noble in New Hanover. And then the bulk of this will be going towards the Phase 2 structural improvements and repairs at New Hanover High School.
Thank you, sir. And the reason why I asked that question is because I know we have a November 4th deadline to get what that total cost of construction for Phase 2 is. And so I think it's important for us to communicate that with our county commissioners, that we did find funding and we are investing into this project because it is such a priority for this board. And so I think that will help in the dialogue, because I know we have to get it to them by November 4th so that they can vote on it by the 18th meeting.
That's
so that
correct.
we can hopefully get every single one of those students and staff back into school prior to the school year starting next year.
That is the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. McManus? Okay. Contract with Public Consulting Group LLC. Any questions?
I do.
Ms. Bradford?
Can we just explain where we spend this $360,000? I believe I understand what it is, but I've never seen it before. And how does that rank out against industry standards? Not the right word, but state district standard of spending.
Okay, so our participation with Public Consulting Group for Medicaid and fee-for-service cost reporting is so that we can bill Medicaid for Medicaid-eligible education services, such as occupational therapy, physical therapy services, speech-language services, all for students with disabilities. And we would not be able to manage the Medicaid billing and reimbursement process on our own at this cost. It would cost us more to do it on our own because Public Consulting Group creates a large structure to be able to handle that en masse more than we would be able to handle it individually. So our fee to Public Consulting, we consider this to be our fee, is whatever percentage of what we recapture in Medicaid reimbursement. So this $360,000 that we are spending, it's so that we can get $1 million, sometimes $1.2 million in return in Medicaid funds in order to continue to help pay for the services for our students with disabilities.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking.
Okay, carrying on with D, Barrington Irving Technical Training School, New Hanover County Schools, UNCW MOU.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bradford?
This is the aviation portion, which is so exciting. My only question would be insurance. I mean, sooner or later, we got a kid in an airplane, are we covered enough?
That is all covered in the MOU that was looked at by our attorneys and by Ms. Sutton, and as a part of that MOU, that is a part of what UNCW and Barrington Urban have to provide.
I think it's interesting that our portion is only $18,000, and we get $91,000 worth of education for the kids. It's going to be a very popular program.
Any other questions? No. Board members, just to let you know, items E and F, Ms. Mason will have to recluse herself from both of those. CTEC, High School, and Cape Fear Community College MOU 2425. Any questions? WECHS and Cape Fear MOU 2425. Any questions? Item G, UNC and Marine Science at Ashford High School MOU. H, Multilingual Education Finish Line Access Workbooks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like for our staff to elaborate on what that is, because it's the supports for our multilingual students, and so just to hear about what that is, and so the public can hear about that as well.
So that's a resource for our multilingual children to help improve their academic performance across the different language domains, which in turn should be able to help them perform better on their access testing that they're required to take each year when they're receiving ML services. So that was a resource that the instructional department located and found and was requested by many of our EL teachers in helping support the learning across language for our ML children.
Thank you.
Brad?
So this is new? This is new?
Yes, and it's being paid for out of Title III money, which is for ML children, and it needed to come here because of the amount.
And this agreement has been reviewed by the board attorney?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item I, sole source resolution, and Korea Publishing and Safes in Civil Schools.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bradford?
This is really interesting, and I would love a sentence or two. The fact that it's a sole source is quite fascinating. I know it's federal money, but I'd like to hear a little bit more.
Thank you for asking. So our work and partnership with, somehow I move this to the other Our partnership with Safe and Civil Schools is really all around our work on school culture and climate with regard to building and sustaining safe and supportive learning environments. This is our evidence-based work around the prevention of problematic and challenging student behaviors. So it fosters student growth, fosters responsible behavior, and fosters student success. And a couple of the main points, many of our schools have already been participating in this training, but for our next layer of training and because of the cost that it'll be, it does need to be addressed at the board level. So forming and working with their behavior leadership teams, really having that 3-level discipline system to address handling of misbehaviors, their classroom management approach, the school plans for the management of student behavior that you have seen before and you will be seeing again in compliance with policy 4302. That template comes straight from this work. Okay. So that's work that our schools have already been engaging in. So overall, this is helping our staff understand behavioral theory and addressing and intervening on student behavior change as a part of our Safe Schools focus.
Any other questions? Hearing none?
And this was the training that we were able to do the first day of last week, and we had over 70 people come to that training. This is that one I was mentioning last week. And a lot of our principals and a lot of our teachers came to engage together in that work. It was really powerful.
Thank you, Dr. Barnes. Contracts extending to fiscal year 2026? Nothing? Contract with Carolina Advanced Digital? Ms. Bradford?
Just curious, this one's dated October, and I noticed going back through that there were some that were dated previously, and just, we had said in a board vote that these things would all get caught up and they wouldn't be post-dated. So just checking to make sure that everyone remembers that.
Yes, the contract date, as far as when they did the control sheet, is October the 16th, but the contract term is November 27th of 24 to November.
I see that. It just was my reminder to ask you guys.
Yes.
Because I saw
Yes.
some other ones that were earlier in the year, and I just wanted to,
Yeah.
I'm hoping we're caught up now, and then everything will be in the future and not in the past.
We all hope so too. So I do want to make one correction on here. So it is marked on there, the non-standard contract required board approval. That is wrong. This contract actually is version 1, the software contract. So that was an incorrect X on that contract control sheet for the Carolina Advanced Digital.
Ms. Bradford, can I make a correction, please? The multilingual education access books do not go to the board attorney because it's not an MOU. It's just a contract to purchase books.
Thank you.
But don't all contracts either follow a template or go to the board attorney?
It's following the template.
Okay, thank you.
Capital outlay fund project transfer? No. And MOU with Blue Ribbon Commission on the prevention of youth violence, DBA Voyage.
Hi, Val.
Ms. Bradford?
I had asked to see some measures of success, the results we've had in the last 2 years. I don't know who's bringing that to us. I had sent an email because I'm familiar with the Blue Ribbon Commission. When I look for their 990 online for the Voyage of Wilmington, it takes me to Blue Ribbon Commission. So I just have understanding, it's been around a long time. So how many students that were serviced by this group, how many of them stayed in schools, how many of them got jobs, how many of them went on college. I know that this isn't our money, but just because the county's funding it doesn't mean that it's necessarily indicative of an organization's validity anymore. So I'm just wanting an update on what they do for us, how they spend their money, all that. Because I couldn't find their 990, and I'm pretty good at finding 990s.
Could you repeat those questions of what you?
Could you please repeat those questions?
Oh, how many students stayed in school? How many are working? How many went to college? The success in our schools, measure of results we've had in the last 2 years. And then you can normally look at a 990 for a nonprofit and see how they spend their money, but I couldn't find it. So I asked the question about, do we have their P&L, their balance statement, any of that?
My only concern with some of those questions is that's not the same process we use for other agencies that support us in the same way. So I would think if you want that sort of information, we're going to need to put that off because we don't have that now. But with other MOUs with other agencies, we don't necessarily ask for that same amount of detailed information. And maybe because it's always publicized, but that was just a concern on our end of that when that email came in.
And I can explain how this came about, and then we may want to think about adding something to the template of our MOU that we use for our community-based partners. We have a very giving and supportive community, and especially nonprofit community here in Hanover County, and very often they reach out, community agencies, nonprofits reach out on ways that they can provide support in our schools. And the Blue Ribbon Commission, doing business as Voyage, did reach out to several of our principals and wanted to be able to provide some case management support in their schools. Staff that they bring in that are certified community health workers that provide intensive case management to work alongside our school counselors and school social workers. And the principals that I spoke with definitely wanted this service in their school, and they said, how can we allow these folks to come in? And at that point we said, we've got to have an MOU that our board gets to see, gets to acknowledge, and have discussion about. One of the reasons that we found this to be valuable, not going through that whole background, because we don't do that for most of the other agencies, because we have our insurance, our liability insurance, the general liability, they have to follow our policies and processes regarding student safety standards, whether it's background checks, the Jessica Lunsford Act checks, and all of that. But Voyage is asking to partner with us in supporting a caseload of students per community health worker in interventions, classroom push-in, after-school enrichments. They basically, because they garner their funding, and I wanted to clarify, I'm not aware that their funding, I'm not aware of where their funding comes from and if any of it's still county funding. I know it was in the past, so I'm not sure now.
I kind of remember it from their meeting earlier in the year, and I noted it because I knew the name, but I didn't know what they do, so it's been on my radar for a while.
Gotcha. So Voyage is asking to support students in after-school enrichments, family support outside of school, connecting them to certain community services and resources, and then giving them opportunities for spots in their after-school program and their programs that serve students when we have intercession for our schools that are on a restart calendar or
So is this brand new, Ms. Barnum, or has it's been ongoing for a while, right?
So the work of Voyage has been in our schools over the past couple of school years through the collective work with Port City United. And this was previously, we had an MOU with Voyage and the county and the school system. But because they're not a part of that county-funded program as Port City United, because it's not in existence in that structure, Voyage did say, well, we still have other funding and we still want to provide support in these schools. And so we've been moving through that process.
What's the date on this one? Could it be something we hold up?
So we have not started these services in this school year yet.
Right.
Ms. Barnhart?
So two clarities. So in the caseload here, it says between 15 and 20 students, but that's per caseworker per school that they're at. So
Yes.
some of them said one, some of them had two.
Yes.
And then is it typical the format of they would perform the background check, or is it more typical that we would do the background check with the partnerships?
When we have community partners come to us and say, we have funding to pay our people and we want to provide this service in your schools, we make sure that it's a part of the MOU that they complete the background checks and then they submit those to the district.
Okay.
So they send those in to the division that is managing the MOU and then also to Human Resources. So very often there have had to be discussions between the district and a community partner when there's been something that has needed to be discussed with relation to a criminal charge or something in the background. So those are discussions that we do.
And we send each of our providers a copy and a list of what our policies are regarding background checks and what triggers and what doesn't.
Okay.
Anyone else? If not, that ends that, so we'll turn it over to Ms. Mason for policy.
There are some very minor changes. There is one that in policy we wanted a little more clarification on, and that is, sorry, I never got to you, Ms. Walker, about that. It's 2230 because we had some questions about some of the description of the task force. But I would say 10 minutes should be sufficient.
Ms. Bradford?
On that one, because of the meeting we had last Tuesday, we are discussing making that Finance Committee a much larger committee. And since it's on there and we're hearing it, I am going to propose that we add the minimum number of voting committee members that must be present at a properly called meeting in order to conduct the business of the committee will be set at 6 for a quorum. In other words, we could have a much larger group, but there's 9 put out in that, under policy 2230. There's 9 people that have to be on that. So the quorum of that 9 would be 6, so that we don't have to, if we have 21 people and, we can't go 51%, call people together and then disband the meeting. So it's just, Robert's Rules of Order says we can go, quorum is 51%. We follow Robert's Rules of Order, but we can adopt it to be a smaller number if it's just a part of our policy, which is our bylaws. And so I'm going to propose that in next week's meeting, to add that little bit right there. Or 2 weeks, sorry.
For what, the Finance Committee?
Yeah, just finance, yeah. I just want to give you guys a
that's what I
heads
was
up that I was going to bring that to you. Because we're going to try to get a meeting like in November. And I'm assuming that we'll pass this and we'll be okay. But the first one will probably have a big fat quorum anyway.
So we're good with 10 minutes?
I would say yes, we're going to attend.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, one more thing.
Go ahead, Ms. Barnhart.
May I ask the policy chairwoman, did she see any issues with what Ms. Bradford is proposing to bring to the table to the meeting? And has she had time to chat with our council about it?
I had not heard about it until just now, so.
Yes, I did talk to our council about it. I heard from him this morning. And the,
Bradford?
this thing.
The universal application?
No, it's not the universal. Sorry, next one. Keep going. Next one. I just wanted to add 2
So we're
words.
good with policy?
Yeah, we're good with policy.
Policy, good, okay. Superintendent search update, Dr. Barnes.
We're looking at
Attorney. No. Maybe I was speaking, yeah. Anyway, attorneys, how long do you think we need to discuss that?
I thought I read you put this on.
I think we had mentioned that we want to, not sit still and not do anything until we at least start the process.
We've been sought out by 3 different groups that are willing to perform the search for us, but we haven't entertained any conversations.
Well, I think the board members, I think we would like, and please tell me if I'm wrong, I think we would like you to pursue getting those folks in to speak with us so we can move forward. Am I correct? Or do we want to sit on our thumbs for a couple weeks?
I'm ready to, I'm willing to ride.
Okay, I think so. If, on behalf of the board, we'd like to ask you to go ahead and contact those folks and please set up a time that we can sit down with them and hear from them in the next, I would say, 2 weeks.
Oh, good grief.
Well, I mean, we don't have much time, so, with this board, so we need to move forward.
Mr. Wildebohr?
Ms. Graybill?
Yes, I'm sorry, I had to get disconnected, but I'm back. I like the idea of hearing, I guess, basically what I'm interested in is, have we put out an RFP, or have we asked anybody to start advertising for us? Because that's really where we are, and then, or are we going to have? Because I thought we agreed to have a search firm do all that for us. And excuse me.
We're listening to you.
Yeah, but I'm hearing all kinds of talking, so I don't know if I'm talking or you're talking.
No, you're the one talking right now, ma'am.
Okay, so have we decided that we are going to use a search firm, or have we decided that we are going to use the attorney? Because that may be where where their confusion is, because we haven't even decided that, if I am recalling correctly. You know, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. I think you're correct that we need to figure that out. We wanted to hear from some search firms to see, you know, number one, scope of work, cost of their whole operation. So, you know, we know what we're getting into as far as that goes. I think, and again, not speaking for everyone, but I think that we want to have a nationwide search versus a statewide search. But I could be wrong. Ma'am?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying,
Yeah.
is that is it my turn? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am, speak.
Okay, yeah, so I'm just thinking that if we already have some firms that are interested,
Correct.
so why couldn't we have them come talk to us at our board meeting, at the board meeting on the 12th, so we can at least get the ball rolling for the new people coming in. I mean, because they're gonna be seated on December the 3rd, and probably aren't going to be sitting down to discuss who we're going to pick until January. So if we don't get started now, then we're really only getting ourselves a month more behind. And we do have to honor the Dr. Barnes' contract that, if we haven't done anything or selected somebody by January, then his contract, amendments go into effect. Am I still connected? I'm not hearing anybody anymore.
With respect to Ms. Bradford's question on whether we have individual candidates seeking this out or whether we have search firms seeking this out to perform the search, we have both.
Yeah, I would like to see us maybe have a discussion at our next meeting to discuss the parameters of how we do this and the criteria for what we're searching and so on, rather than just shoot off at the hip right now after months of no activity and just all of a sudden like, let's get going, without having clear direction.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I'm going to push back a little bit, because we intentionally hosted a couple of town halls to get feedback from our staff and from our stakeholders. And so that just got completed, a week ago? So we are doing things. We are collecting that data. In the report that we're going to receive about the town hall, we'll have the talking points of what people brought up, and we are putting that together when we're looking at the search. And so I would, if we're going to keep this on the agenda, I would like to see a discussion that kind of for us to accumulate what we have heard and what we would like to see, and then potentially the following month maybe have presentations at either agenda review or the following meeting. But I feel like that would be a good recap of where we are, because we are listening, we are hearing from our community, and we're trying to do this respectfully and thoughtfully. So.
Others? Mr. Munez.
I think the comments that we've heard about Dr. Barnes since he took over pretty well answer the question. And I would hope that Dr. Barnes, regardless of what he says or doesn't say, is at the top of the list. I actually think if he's not the superintendent, and you bring someone in, if he decides he wants the job, and you bring someone that's new, and you're going to have one whole year of honeymoon, someone that doesn't know, someone's going to have to ask questions of everybody, and sometimes that'll put them on the spot, but they won't have any growth whatsoever for 12 months minimum. And so my personal and professional opinion sits the next superintendent, if he so chooses.
Are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion right now
I'll second it.
that we make him superintendent of the Hanover County Schools. But he's gonna have to wait till January, I'm sure.
May I offer an amendment? That we would maybe make an offer to him? Did he want position? In other words, extend the offer versus just declaring, because his opinion in this counts? Mr. McManus?
Okay, we have an amendment offered.
Mr. Wildebohr, I have my hand up.
I have no idea to see. Okay, yes, ma'am. Ms. Craybill.
So I'm having a little bit of PTSD here from the July 2nd meeting.
Preach.
Where we are just shooting from the hip without having any discussion. I mean, you know, Dr. Barnes is sitting right there, and we haven't even discussed this at all. Not that I am opposed to the fine work that he's done and the turning of the ship that he has been able to create for us, but to make a motion to hire him like right on the spot, it's just reminding me of the motion to fire the former superintendent. It doesn't look like we're thinking things through and that we're talking together as a group. So, no disrespect, Mr. McManus, I admire the work that he's doing, but I think this is not quite the...
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Am I still talking?
We have a point of, Ms. Bradford has raised a point of order.
I'm just concerned we might be moving into personnel that would be covered under closed session and not an open session.
Good point. Would you?
And I'm good with that. I'm good with that point of order, that this is premature to be doing this right this moment.
Thank you. And Dr. Barnes had his hand up, so Dr. Barnes.
I was going to say that since this involves the personnel nature of a guy, a pretty good-looking guy I know pretty well, I would encourage us maybe to put that into a closed session conversation.
Okay.
It would be appropriate and perfectly acceptable to talk about this in closed session.
Okay.
I withdraw my second.
Well,
We will
No, just
delay,
postpone.
then we will delay Mr. McManus's.
well, the reason I did that, and I do understand it's a closed session issue, is when Ms. Barnhart said we listened to people, we've had town halls, well, we've had a total of maybe 40 people in 2 town halls, and we have how many? I think our population's now up to 300 and something thousand. So I just wanted to make sure, because I will not be on the board, but that I feel like this man has done a job and is leading everyone, and I feel comfortable that everyone that works with him, I won't say under him, but works with him, is also in agreement that he deserves the opportunity. But if I were he, I would wait till the first of the year to make sure that everybody got their act together, whatever that means. But I have to show my support for him.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So we have no time next to that. Let's give that a 20-minute time limit. We can use that. Next, we have new business, the
Mr. Chair?
IDEA
Mr. Chair.
resolution.
Mr. Chair, can I add, can we see if we can add something under old business, which is New Hanover High School update? I know we had promised that we would.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. We'll add that. That's supposed to be on there, so we don't need to have even a second on that.
Okay.
That's supposed to be on there.
And Eddie's got that teed up for next week already.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Eddie.
I'm going to stand down then on bringing any other potential search firms to the meeting,
Right.
given the conversation about Dr. Barnes.
Right. Okay, for today.
No, it's under old business on this
Usually
one.
that's
That's for today, not for, this is,
Yes,
but we're talking about.
Still on this one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
not.
Brain freeze.
Yes, ma'am.
How much time do we need for the New Hanover High update? Mr. Anderson?
I would say 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving on to the IDEA resolution from Ms. Walker.
I just have a
Ms. Barnhart?
question of where the language came from for this resolution. Was our staff consulted, our superintendent, our legal counsel with this?
No, it's a resolution.
Okay.
I know in the past you've brought resolutions. They're not laws, they're just in support. So it's not like we're passing any kind of law here. It's whether we do or do not support fully funding IDEA. So.
And, go ahead.
I think that resolutions, I'm of the belief that resolutions really don't belong in our school board deliberations. The county does them, but I'm not comfortable with resolutions. And first of all, I have a, correction. The first line says Foundation for Democracy when we're actually a constitutional federal republic. But there's facts in here about IDEA, which of course everybody wants to fund, but about halfway through it switches over to opportunity scholarships. And that change up isn't mentioned in the title, so I'm very uncomfortable with this. I do not want to come out and say that I oppose what they're doing in the General Assembly and that all these facts that are in here, I don't know where they came from, but I know the General Assembly gave us more in the last year than we did ever before, and I'm not gonna throw rocks at them. I'm not gonna vote for a resolution to throw rocks at the
Actually,
state.
Ms. Bradford, if at all, we're going to discuss this next week, but I did have the attorneys review the document, and they've actually given us an alternative document that I'm going to pass out that we can look at for next week and discuss in that discussion. So I'll pass those around. Let me have one more. Please, thank you. One for you, sir. And again, why don't we give that a good 30 minutes? 20? Well, I mean, we have two different resolutions we can discuss at that time. 30, let's go for 30.
This is just idea. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, is there a way we can have that posted so that the public can have
Absolutely. Actually,
access to that too?
December.
can you send it on to,
Mr. Wildeboard? Mr. Wildeboard?
yes, ma'am?
So, in the, to Ms. Bradford's point about the opportunity scholarships that are included in that resolution, can we not then include the discussion that I wanted to have that was voted down earlier about that, in with this resolution, or is that included already in the alternate one that we're going to be receiving?
Not.
It is not, so that's
Okay.
the opposite. So, okay. All right, let's give that
Thank you.
30 minutes, then we have 5 minutes of correspondence. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, with due respect, so we just passed out this resolution that our attorneys have looked over and created verbiage for that looks solely for IDEA
Right.
support. The other resolution is not solely for IDEA support. And so my question is, because I am on the legislative committee and we brought forth the legislative agenda that unanimously passed this board. Dr. Barnes and team are getting the credentials to support and the documents that we want to advocate for. And so I do feel like it was disingenuous to put a partial resolution of IDEA funding and support, happens to be a week before the elections, possibly, potentially, politically, climate. I do not appreciate this.
That's very rude.
And this
Point of
is
order.
something
Point of
that-
order. I've called a point of order.
Definite point of order. Definite point of order.
Walker?
To call into
That's
question.
absolutely
Ms. Graybill.
nothing to do with it.
Graybill,
It's a
I'm
very
here. Ms. Walker.
inappropriate thing to make up and accuse somebody of doing. IDA has nothing to do with the county. It is a federally funded program, and to suggest otherwise is very, very rude and out of order.
I will take that, and I will agree with that. If we have in front of us two different items to discuss, two different resolutions, we should have probably put them through the legislative committee. They did not go through the legislative committee, and that's where we're at this point.
Mr. Chair, I
Someone
move
can,
that we put
excuse
them
me,
through the
I'm still
legislative
speaking,
committee.
excuse me. At this point, we will have the two different resolutions that we can move forward. Once we have a motion, if someone wants to make a motion to put it back in legislative committee, then we can vote.
I would move that we put it to legislation. Legislation hasn't seen it before yesterday.
And I'll second that.
Mi-
Okay, we have first and second.
Since I am the third member of legislative that never gets consulted about either trips or anything else, and I'm pretty much left out of the discussion, I don't know that that's appropriate. I brought I've brought resolution here before. You've brought them before. It's not gone through legislative. So I don't think that, I mean, if y'all want to pass it that way, you can. I don't think there's anything wrong with supporting, fully funding IEDEA, and if you think it's got to go through committee to do that, I think that either you don't support it or you don't want to have the discussion out loud at the full board meeting. So I would still like to keep it in on the agenda.
Okay, that's what we're going to vote. Right now, we have a motion and a second to take it off the agenda and to put it into legislation. I believe we'll need a vote. So, Ms. Louie, would you please, Ms. Crable, just make sure you're clear, this vote is to...
Yes, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Got it? Okay, all right, so make sure you know. All right, Ms. Louie, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Barnhart?
Yes.
Ms. Mason?
Can you come back to me, please?
Ms. Bradford?
Yes.
Ms. Craybill?
No.
Mr. McManus?
No.
Mr. Wildebohr?
No.
Ms. Walker?
No.
Ms. Mason?
I'm sorry, what was that? No. Okay, so it will remain, we will have two different resolutions that we can discuss at that time. And again, as I said, we said probably a half hour, we'll leave a half hour for that. We have 5 minutes of correspondence, 5 minutes announcements, and then a closed session if needed. Attorney, do you need a closed session to your knowledge or next week?
As of right now, I do not think we do.
Gentlemen, okay. Ms. Mason, what do we have for a total?
215 minutes with a 5-minute bathroom break, so that puts us at about 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours, so we have a little bit of time, and that's with a good chunk of discussion for a half hour. So, okay, we will carry on. We are a little bit ahead. Do the attorneys shown up yet? The other attorneys? I do not see them. So we will carry on with our regular agenda. Actually, we can go into closed session and do the other things first. Yeah, but why don't we do that? Okay, at this point, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143, 318.11 for the following purposes: to prevent disclosure of information as privileged or confidential pursuant to General Statute 115C 402 and not considered public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of General Statute, to prevent disclosure of student records rendered confidential under the Family Education Rights, to consult with an attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the board, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of employment, conditions of initial employment of an individual considered for employment with the school system, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, grievance, or by or against any individual employee, and to consult with the attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the board, including respect to John Doe's 15 through 17 versus New Hanover County Board of Education.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? We're in closed session.
Aye.
If anyone needs to stop by facilities, please do.
All right, see y'all later. Just kidding, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I am cold though, so I am putting on my jacket. I know.
We are back in open session. Everybody's here. Welcome back. We are going to continue on with personnel report. All right, do I hear a motion to accept the personnel report?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second? Got a second over there? Any discussion? All in favor of accepting personnel report as provided, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Graybill, you on? Okay, that's 6-0. We will continue with the literacy framework presentation.
Mr. Chair, real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way we can address at some point, perhaps after this presentation, that we are going to need closed session, so we're going to have to make some adjustments to the agenda? Because that will put us over.
How far over?
If it's 45 minutes, it'll put us, so far we're at 3.5 hours. So
why don't we
45.
say a half hour, and if we have to go over, then we will.
Okay.
add time.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, because how much time did we allow for old business on that?
Hi.
Okay, here we are.
I heard you.
We're ready.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited this afternoon to share a little bit about our literacy framework and just kind of all the pieces that we put together to provide strong literacy instruction for all of our students in elementary school. I think this is working. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I wanted to start off just by sharing just a quick little timeline of where we've been, because this has been a multi-year effort in our district to support and improve literacy instruction. And it really began in 2020 when we did an audit with NCDPI where they looked at pre-K through 12th grade literacy instruction and made some recommendations to us. And in that we saw the strengths of our curriculums and our resources and of our teachers, but we also saw where we needed to make changes to better align and support our students. And so from that, we created a literacy mission and vision statement. And then the next year, we started to make some of those changes that were recommended by DPI. One of the biggest changes that we made is we made sure that we had consistent phonics instruction across our district. We had 2 programs in previous years. We made sure that we had 1 because we have a transient population, but we also expanded phonics instruction to ensure that our pre-K students were exposed and that our 3rd grade students continue to get that support for advanced decoding. It was also in 2021 that we signed up to be a part of cohort 1 for letters, and that was that science of reading training that we knew was imperative in leveling the playing field for our students and our teachers when it came to literacy instruction. And so all of our pre-K through 5th grade teachers, EC, ESL, AIG, principals, all started their work in letters, which is a multi-year course about the science of reading. And really, letters has provided this common language across our district because we know that learning to read, there are just some really tried and true facts about how our brain learns how to read, but it's complicated. And our teachers come from all different universities and all different places with all different knowledge, and this created that common language and that common foundation for us. In 2022, our first cohort of letters participants graduated from the course, and that was, we had over 785 people in our district complete that course, and we have a 90% passing rate. So we're really proud of that. And at this point, we have close to 900 participants who've gone through that course and graduated, and our end of test proficiency is at 90% still. So we're really proud of that. Also in 2022, the board set the strategic plan goals, which we know and are working towards. And then last year, we we started to continue to make those adjustments and changes based off that literacy audit, and also, more importantly, based off what we've learned in letters, right? So our teachers had gone through this rigorous training, and they had said, we want to make sure that the curriculum and the resources that we have in front of us align with the science that we've all learned about. And so we did a K-8 ELA curriculum adoption, and then also just last year, we were recognized twice by DPI for our literacy efforts. We were the first district in the state to receive the Champions of Change Award, and we were also identified as a promising practice district for early literacy. So I say that just to say that the work we're doing is being noticed at the state level because it is making a difference in the lives of our students. Our vision for literacy for New Hanover County Schools is every day, every student in New Hanover County Schools is engaged in systematic knowledge building and comprehensive literacy instruction. And we do that through many ways, and I'm going to talk to you about those different avenues that we take to address the different pillars of literacy. But we want our students to come out as strong readers and writers. And all of this is in tandem with our strategic plan goal of reaching 90% of our third grade students reading on grade level by 2027. And one of the strategies that's identified in the strategic plan is that first one, is that we're going to implement and sustain high quality curriculum that includes the 5 pillars of literacy. And you guys, I just really want to stress that, and you'll see that in the next slide. But that literacy involves many different components. It's not just reading and writing, but there's many strands that make a skilled reader. And this is one of the models that really stuck with us when we went through that letters course, and that's Scarborough's reading rope. And what it shows is it gives us that visual that for a student to become a skilled reader, that they have to have really these 2 main components. They have to be able to read the words on the page. That's that green strand, which is word recognition. And that includes phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition. And we teach that through several of the curriculums in our district. Heggerty, we teach at K1 in the core, and then foundations and geodes as well. But we can't just learn to read the words on the page. We also have to be able to comprehend the words that we're reading. And that comes with strong background knowledge, vocabulary, understanding syntax, and those comprehension skills. And that comes through wit and wisdom, geodes, and even our social studies curriculum supports building that strong comprehension for our students. And all of this is working to help our students master those North Carolina Standard Course of Study. So we know that for literacy, we can't just say that there's one way that we teach reading. We know that we have to take this multifaceted approach to reach all the areas to build a strong reader and to achieve teaching all of our North Carolina Standard Course of Study goals as well. Now, how this looks in the ELA block depends on the grade level, right? So our K1 students have the most amount of time in their master schedule at schools for literacy. They have about 130 minutes total because we know we need that extra time and that extra support to build those foundational skills. So we have to build phonemic awareness with Heggerty, we have to build phonics with foundations, and then they get that time for reading and writing through wit and wisdom. K2-3 has slightly less time because really those phonemic awareness skills that are taught in Heggerty are solid by the time they go to 2nd and 3rd grade. And so they have 120 minutes. And then 4-5 really focuses on that reading and writing comprehension through wit and wisdom. Now I want to also point out that those time links look long, but students aren't sitting for 130 minutes or 90 minutes ever. That really is a combination of whole group and small group and collaborative work. You'll see students working in pairs, you'll see students working independently, but all of our curriculums promote an active engagement through multisensory and through strong instructional routines as well. Now, all of those curriculums really help ensure that all students have access to grade level assignments. And that's really important for us to make sure that no matter what skills students come into our grade level at, we know that our MTSS framework is going to support those individual needs, but every student deserves to be exposed to grade level assignments and be in rigorous and complex work. And that's also how they're assessed, right? We think about the EOG, the students are seeing grade level texts and grade level questions based on their standards. And we want to make sure that all students have an opportunity to process and grapple with grade level work and assignments as well. So it's really important that all students get that rigorous instruction. And now this is really, truly my favorite part to talk about, because the work we're doing is making an impact on our students, and we've seen that over the past few years. We've had a very watchful eye to see if the changes that we're making are having a positive impact on student learning. And so this first graph shows you our end-of-year assessment for K-3. Our K-3 students take a reading screener 3 times a year. It's the Dibbles assessment to assess their foundational reading skills. And this graph shows the comparison for New Hanover County to both national and state averages. National averages are in the green, state averages are in yellow, and New Hanover County is in the blue. And what I'm excited to tell you today is that at the end of last year, all of our grade levels exceeded both national and state averages in every single grade level. Yay! We are so proud of that, and truly it's the first year ever that we are above second and third grade national averages. We've always been right at that with the state, and this year we inched above. And I think that really shows the work we've done in previous years to provide strong foundational skills for our students. What I'm also really proud of is this kindergarten group. So this kindergarten group is our strategic plan cohort. They're the ones we're working to get to 90%. They left at 78% proficient last year. And when we look at them comparatively from beginning of the year to end of the year, we grew our students from beginning to end 45%. Nationally, they're growing students 25%. So we are far exceeding not only the proficiency, but we're far exceeding the growth. And what I think is important to notice is that we started actually below the national and state averages at the beginning of the year, and we ended above both of them, and quite a bit above the national average. And so I'm really excited to see these kindergartners continue to move through their school with those strong foundational skills. And all of this, let me say this first and foremost, all of this is an attribute to the hard work our teachers do every single day. They have taken this hard, rigorous work that they've learned in letters, and they're applying it in the classrooms, and it is making a difference not just for our scores, but more importantly in the lives of our students, right? When you're a reader, your world opens up to anything. And so they're equipping our students with that skill. Now, I think it's important too for us to not just say, great job last year, but what does it look like from year to year? And so this is a comparison of our K-3 Dibbles proficiency over the past 4 years. And what I think is really encouraging is that we see that gradual stair step at both beginning, middle, and end of the year every year. So we are seeing a steady increase each year. Also, looking at this, by pulling out that data and looking at it more specifically by grade level, I think it's also really important to celebrate that our kindergarten and first grade end-of-year Dibbles scores are now above where they were pre-pandemic. We talk a lot about the learning loss that happened with the pandemic, but we're now exceeding where we were before the pandemic in 2018 and 19. Now, our second and third grade students, we know that we struggle to grow in proficiency from year to year because those skills are more advanced, and it's harder to close that skill gap as students are progressing through their grade level and through multisyllabic words and advanced decoding. And so we were working really hard to ensure that all of our students in K-1 are equipped with those skills so we have less of those gaps as students move forward. Now, we've talked a lot about our DIBEL scores. I think it's also important for us to talk about the impact on EOGs. Last year, every single grade level, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, met or exceeded expected growth on the reading EOG. And that really just shows that they look at our 3rd graders, they far exceeded what the state thought that those students were capable of doing. And they are at the very tippy top of that chart for growth. Now, I also just want to share, we know that last year it was the first year of our curriculum adoption, and we know that our teachers struggled with the curriculum in some ways, and the climate survey really helped shed some light on the areas that they wanted more support with. And so we're working really hard to be responsive to those 2 areas. There were 2 key areas that the climate survey showed to us. First, that Wit and Wisdom really feels like a scripted curriculum to them. And we hear that, and we know that in that first year, it's really hard to know what's coming next because you're learning the curriculum as you go through that year. I know that this year, as we've started off, lots of my conversations with teachers have already begun with, I feel a lot better about it this year because I know how it all works and I know what's coming next. And so but we also want to be responsive to their needs. So a couple of things that we've done this year is, first, we did the training for teachers at the beginning of this year. Last year, we leaned on the company to do that because we were learning it. And at the end of this year, we said, actually, you know what? We know our students, we know our teachers better than anybody else, and we've wrapped our minds around this curriculum and how to best utilize it to support our students and our community. And so we have led that training for our teachers. We also have provided flexibility in our pacing. And so with our pacing guides, we designed them intentionally this year to give teachers more time and space to take pause point days, to take that day to go, you know what, I need to reteach that standard, and I got to teach it the way that I know how to teach it, right? And so depending on the grade level, they have anywhere between 26 and 47 pause point days. And 47, that's like a whole 9 weeks across a grade level. So there's a lot of flexibility for teachers to use those days how they best see fit there. The other thing that we're doing is really just planning and supporting teachers and showing them examples of teachers in our districts who are taking this curriculum and using it as a roadmap and not as a script. And we do that through our model classrooms. You heard about the ATR program. The ATR program is also supporting that work. And then our early literacy facilitators are co-teaching and co-planning. That is the majority of the work that they're doing in their schools. The other area of concern was inadequate resources and support. And so we really wanted to make sure that we provided resources for teachers. So when we redid our pacing guides, we made them like one-stop shops for all the resources that they'll need. And so even if they go on that pacing guide, they're gonna find a video of a teacher unpacking Module 1 and telling them like, oh, you know what, in kindergarten, they start off the year with My Five Senses. This is a great science connection for you. So, you know, typically at the beginning of the year, we do apple tastings, and around the fall, we do things with pumpkins. You can still incorporate those things in that kindergarten unit, and they match up with the work that you're doing and that you're learning about in your Wit and Wisdom. And then the other thing that we've created is this ELA hub, and this truly is like the mecca of all ELA resources for teachers to go to. And so we've gone through, and on this you'll find videos of teachers in our district teaching the curriculums that you can watch from home. Like, I like to think of that as like couch PD, right? Like, I just need to see 5 minutes of somebody else doing it to make me feel like, yep, I'm on the right track, or I never thought of it that way. And so we have lots of videos for teachers to watch to see their peers teaching these curriculums. Also, there's just a lot of resources that come with curriculums, and it's hard to navigate and figure out what works for you. And so we went and pulled out the things that we thought were most important and put them in one space so that teachers didn't have to navigate that online platform. And then sometimes it's just helpful to have outside resources, supplemental resources. And teachers spend a lot of time looking for those and trying to see if they match what they're trying to teach. And so we've actually done that work ahead of time, vetted supplemental resources, and linked them so teachers don't have to spend that time themselves doing it. And then lastly, truly, when it comes to ELA, we are trying to be innovative in our problem solving. And I've touched on many of these as I've talked today, but we know that each school community faces their own unique barriers when it comes to literacy. And so how do we be responsive to each school's unique needs? And we think we're doing that in a couple different ways, right? Early literacy facilitators provide an in-school support for teachers to have a thought partner in this work, to co-teach, to think through how to adapt these curriculums to meet the needs of their students, and to also for them to keep their teaching self, their teaching style, and the things that make them excited to teach every day. Model classrooms is an initiative that we started last year. We had 6 model classroom teachers, and these are just highly qualified teachers who they get a little extra PD with me once a month, but they're a trusted, vetted source for us to send teachers to. But they also get to co-teach and co-plan with the teachers who come in and visit them. And we're really excited this year. We're going to expand that program. Last year we just served K-3. This year we're going to serve K-5, and we're going to go from 6 teachers to 12 teachers, which we're really excited about. And DPI actually came down last spring and looked at that model because they would like to model something after us. So we were really proud of that. And then lastly, we create literacy profiles, and we've been doing this for the last couple years, but we really make sure that we're looking at our data and that we are making sure that we're making the right next instructional step for our students. And so in that, teachers are really looking to see what's the right goal and how do they adapt their ELA block and their ELA curriculums to meet the needs of their students based on their data. That was quick, but that is our literacy framework, and I'm happy to take questions.
It's held over from Friday. And, I'm thrilled with the success in the literacy. But I have to ask how you divide out teaching reading against content that may not be age appropriate. Teachers have told us that sometimes it's not age appropriate. And, it impacts a lot of the background knowledge. That's great that they're gaining great background knowledge, but how do you divide that out when the background knowledge might be advocacy in some area? And half the country, half the state, half the county believes that things are going on that don't suit those parents. And how do you address that with what's going on here? How do you divide it out?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for asking that question. So I think parents are our best partners that we have. So we do have policies in place for parents to be able to review the curriculums. Policy 3210 allows any parent to review our instructional materials, and we invite parents to look at the books that their kids are reading, and to, if they feel so inclined, read the book alongside at home and have rich discussions at home. That would be great. We're not putting anything in front of kids that we wouldn't also share with their families. To your point about it being connected to background knowledge, for Wit and Wisdom, for that core resource particularly, each module is connected to a science or social studies topic, but it is age appropriate. So our 5th graders are learning about the Civil War, or 4th graders are learning about the Revolutionary War through texts that are appropriate for them. In the case where we have something where we want to provide additional guidance, we have done that for a couple of different books, and then allowed teachers to be professionals and to make the choices that they need to make in response to their classroom. If they need to adjust or paraphrase or, make those instructional moves that would be best for their classroom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really excited to see the data and the growth, and that's just a testament to our teachers and the leadership that we have in place of that. But I wanted to kind of pull out the focus on the responsiveness of you guys with our teachers, because I do agree to have consistent expectations is what we need for all of our students, no matter where you go to school. If you're in first grade, it's the expectation in New Hanover County. But I love to hear about the flexibility days that our teachers have to be able to pace and reteach and potentially speed ahead. And the ALF position, that is a 3-year grant that we got from the endowment. That is us being able to help support our K-2 classes. If we know if they're not on level in those, then they're probably not going to be on level in 3rd grade. The advanced teacher roles was another 3-year grant. And I'm going to put it out there because, 5 years grant, 5 years. Okay, I thought you were telling me to stop. I was like, okay. I did want to put it, and I know some of my colleagues too are very passionate about pre-K, and it's a concern for us because we know how much that impacts and helps elevate our kindergartners. And so I know the endowment cycle is coming to a close this year, but I would love for us to resubmit the Head Start grant when the cycle opens back up at the beginning of the year and they're able to have those larger amounts go out again. That we should absolutely submit it so we can get a response, hopefully prior to the budget cycle. I know we're talking about that, and just being able to continue to meet the needs of the students.
Can I?
Ms. Mason?
And I think I brought this up. Did you want to answer?
I just wanted to respond about pre-K2. This presentation was really focused on K5, but we have supported early literacy in pre-K2. Haggerty, which is our phonemic awareness curriculum, we tie those things together so that students in pre-K who attend pre-K here are exposed to those prior to getting here. But as you saw from our kindergarten data, right now our kindergartners are coming in below the national average. So all advocacy for supporting early literacy in our county is much appreciated.
And Ms. Mason?
Mine are not questions. Mine are just thank you for listening to what our teachers had to say. And for making the adjustments that needed to be made. And thank you also for there was some feedback that I had mentioned to you that some teachers were concerned about being trained by somebody who was not in district. And I love that now we're doing it and having our people who know our kids, who know our community doing that training. So thank you for what you're doing.
Dr. Barnes?
I was only allowed to speak once, so I got it all in at once. Thank you guys both for mentioning the responsiveness, and I appreciate you going back to teachers and saying, how can we make this better? I want to make a message to I know that we can't recreate this. I know that our time is tight next week at the board meeting, and I would love to have this be presented in a larger audience. What I have asked them to do is to recreate maybe a scaled-down version of this informational session and putting it online on our social media and other places on our website, so people can learn what we're doing. A message for the teachers out there: you're not changing how you teach kids to read. You're changing kids permanently. All the research shows that if a kid is a strong, independent reader at 3rd grade, it changes everything. So for all of the work that the teachers are doing out there, remember how important that is. And last, if we want to increase our proficiency, we exceed growth. If we can continue to exceed growth at a high level, that's where proficiency happens. So for me, I wanted to make mention that 19 of our principals in our schools are in the top 50% of schools in the state for growth. And we have principals in the top 5% of the state in growth. But 19 of our principals get recognized this month for the work that they're doing in exceeding their growth at their schools. So thank you, and thank everybody in the world. And thank you as a board for allowing this to happen as well.
Don't leave yet.
And the endowment, sorry, and we appreciate the endowment leaning into our literacy too. That's great. Now I'm done. All right.
Ms. Walker?
Or,
I don't know.
all I want to do is just give a shout out for the hub. Whoever built that, that's just awesome. Because for a brain like mine, I swear, like having everything in one place where you can just, like you say, sit at home and just go, what do I want to learn today?
Yeah, I needed one place for me to get.
Oh my God, it was awesome. I just wanted to
So our
compliment.
brains are the same.
Yes, good.
Well, and I just will echo what everybody said. Thank you so much for putting this all together and listening and changing and putting it perfect, making it perfect for our students. And that's what it's all about, is our students. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
That looked like you want to say.
Oh, Mr. McManus.
I pick on y'all a lot. I'm gonna miss that. I want to thank you also. Your personality and your commitment and your nonverbal speak absolute volumes about the genuineness of what you care about. And so as a teacher, with that before me, can't help but pay attention. And number two, I can't help but try to make sure that it works for me in my classroom. So for what that's worth as a former administrator, I really appreciate what you're doing. And when we congratulate administrators, we also need to make sure administrators aren't as good as the staff that they work with. And I'm not putting down administrators, I was one of them. Well, I can tell you, without my staff, we wouldn't have done what we did. And so we need to do that, and you're part of that staff. And I think Dr. Barnes has made a point to make sure everybody understands it takes the whole staff to make this thing work.
And just to be fair, Ms. Crable, are you on? I didn't want to leave her out, so. Thank you
so
again.
much.
Thank you again. We are passing around a copy of the board norms, which also is provided online for you. This hasn't changed, but we are hoping that we can get this approved today. We can, it's got everybody's name on there, spell my name wrong, but that's okay. No, kidding.
Oh, come on.
But any discussion on anything? Ms.
Yes.
Bradford?
Just one quick thing. The number 1, treat other board members, students, staff, and parents. I'd like to throw in vendors there. It would then match our policy, which speaks to vendors, so that we treat them respectfully and professionally at all times. So the insertion of vendors, maybe move the comma to behind parents and put vendors.
Got it.
Any questions or concerns? Is that okay with everybody? Okay, go ahead, vendors. Anything else? If not, I'll make a motion that we accept the board norms as provided for us with the change in adding of vendors. Is there a second?
Second. Oh, sorry.
I made the motion.
He made the motion. I second it.
Okay, any other discussion?
I just have a quick discussion, only because I'm winding down on the board, and I have been through a lot, and I'm glad there's established norms, but what happens when people don't follow them?
Yeah, what are the consequences?
I'm just saying, I mean, I'm not trying to like say, you know, they need to be like, you know, put somewhere in jail or anything, but like I've been through a lot. So I mean, I've seen censures and vote of no confidence. It got ridiculous, and I'm not sure. Are we going to hold ourselves accountable or what? How do we do it? We do it publicly, so we're like, hey, you're not following board norms. Like the first line right today, I mean, I kind of feel disrespected today. You know what I mean? Like, what do we do here? We can sign this all day, but we got to stick to it. It has to be. We cannot assume that from each other that we're being nefarious when we bring things. You know, I don't know. Do we want to follow that up, or are we just gonna? I mean, I'm happy to sign this all day. I do. I like to think I do all these, but
I would say, you know.
Careful in there.
There we go. I would say, you know, that we have, and you and I have both seen censures and voting for no confidence, you know, gaveling, you know, discussions outside of the board. You know, that's something, but I think the change here, and please, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think one thing is, you know, if I sign my name to something, and I, you know, honestly, we all raised our hand at one point and put our hand on the Bible and said that we would do certain things. But I mean, I think the thing of it is, as we transition to a new board, that, you know, this is what we aspire to. And if they don't, then, you know, it becomes a board chairperson's responsibility to, you know, try to do it, or, you know, in worst case scenario, then it becomes the whole board's responsibility in a case of a censure or something like that.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to sign it. I just was wondering.
Ms. Mason?
And I think, and Dr. Barnes can correct me if I'm wrong, that this was really to be an accountability for us. If we're signing our names, we are holding ourselves accountable to it, and hopefully we don't have to get to that point.
We did also provide this to all 6 of our candidates who are running for board as well, but I think that you guys are all being a little disingenuous. This is one of the ways that you guys are wanting to hold yourselves to a standard that you heard in the survey this spring. That this is about accountability and honesty and transparency as a board as well. So I don't want to minimize the fact that the public spoke about something they were concerned about, and you are addressing it definitively. So I think that says a message as well. And I think that don't sign it now, because obviously I have to add the word and then give you another copy next week. But I think this is a step towards sharing with the public that you heard and listened to what they wanted to say. So I think that that's a good point as well.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. We'll carry that 6-0. Next, Life Act, and that's actually under Ms. Mason's name.
I'm not sure how it got there, but I just had, and I don't think we need a long, lengthy discussion. I know that there were some concerns, Ms. Barnum, that you had regarding policy as it pertained to Life Back, or was that you, Dr. Barnes? That was Dr. Barnes.
So several months ago, the board voted to accept ownership or whatever of these free Life Act systems that were being offered to the district. Our concern is our current policy reads that we will follow the standards delivered by the health department, which uses the American Heart Association guidelines, which do not include Life Act. All I would ask is that we work with our attorneys and our policy to adjust our policy to include Life Act and indemnify and make sure our teachers or our staff are not held liable if this is used, and how does that happen if a nurse is present and not? So I think that would be my request before they go into schools.
And I would like to turn it over to Mr. Kromke, because I did bring that to their attention, and they shared that there would be no liability on our folks. But I think I agree with you 100%. We need to put that in policy. I'm not saying we don't.
I think we do need to adjust the policy, and I also think we need to take a better handle on how we're going to train our people. At this point, I don't have a good handle on that at all.
Thank you.
My question would be, what policy number is that?
Julie, you know that one.
Oh, it's a quiz, and it's in the folder that I've provided, but I will give you the policy number. I want to reference that the School Health Program Manual, which is published by the state, it's a collaborative document with Health and Human Services and Department of Public Instruction, does say that all of our life-saving efforts and our medical response will be trained by those folks that have medical license in the building, which are our school nurses. And our school nurses follow, as Dr. Barnes said, the American Heart Association basic life-saving training. So we would not want to engage in our own training of use of Life Act, because that would not meet the requirements under the School Health Program Manual. And also that states that everything that we use is a part of state board approved responses. So I think that it's probably going to be a bit of a deeper dive into that research.
Yes, and I would say that I think that they're widely used, from what I understand, in the state of North Carolina. So maybe we can reach out to a couple other boards of education or school systems and ask how they get around that very question.
We certainly can do that.
Mr. Mason.
And then I know that there are a long list of schools that have adopted or have Life Act. I'm just curious to know if they have policies, and if so, what those look like. And so I'd like to see that, if I could.
Do we have any?
No.
May I ask a question? Mr. Chair, may I ask a question? So we're not saying that we're going to stop training people like in CPR and first aid? Okay.
No.
Okay,
We just
this
have
is
to-
just in a,
This is a nuance that isn't covered in our current training.
Okay.
And so we would need to find the way to install that still follows the state
I
guidelines.
think part of the problem too is, if we have a child choking, and I'm sure we had a child choking the other day, and a nurse comes in and a teacher or a cafeteria worker comes in with a Life Act, I think it needs to be very clearly delineated that the nurse is still in charge because she's the medical professional. Am I correct?
Yes, and the information that I shared from our health director that stated that, our staff are going to be trained by the school nurse. There was some concern that we would definitely need our own policies on ensuring that we don't provide maybe contradictory advisement to our teachers.
okay.
So I think that's going to be the main concern for our staff, to feel comfortable with the resources that they're going to use, and to make sure that they feel like they are using the response that would be recommended by our medical staff too.
So having support from the attorney in doing that homework, I think is what I'm asking.
Right.
Do we need a motion to get that to policy, or do we just send it?
No, I think, I'll bring it to policy, and I'll work with you to make sure it's all in there. But I think the first step is finding out what other districts are doing and how.
And one more question. Dr. Barnes, you said that this was provided free to us, but I actually got a message from a constituent who said, we paid so much money for those, why are you not using them?
No.
So can you clear that up?
I haven't paid a dime.
Okay.
Oh.
The school, there was a
Oh,
fundraiser.
somebody raised the money and donated them to school. That's what it was. Okay, thank you.
And I've got no concern, and I really appreciate people looking out for the safety of kids. Just want to make sure that we are putting ourselves in a place where we're defensible as well.
Okay, so I think we've covered life back, is that correct? Yes? Let's move on, and I do have C in here, consulting, 2025 budget consultant.
Okay.
Ms. Bradford. Yep.
We had a really great meeting last week, and we had a presentation, and I'd like to move forward to request from them what they can do for us. So I will, and I'm sorry that everyone wasn't there, because it was really good, but it is prepared, and most of it was around the bond, but a small portion was this, and we ran completely out of time, but it was an amazingly good meeting. So I move that we request a proposal from School Operations Specialist Aaron Goulier, New Bern, North Carolina, for the 2025-26 budget process consulting. And then what would happen is we'd get that information, and then we'd make a decision about what we'd seen. I'm not asking you to vote on hiring someone. I'm asking you to say, let's get a proposal from him and see what it looks like.
I'll second that, and I have a point of discussion.
Motion and a second, further discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to reiterate, they would be working with Ms. Sutton.
Oh, gosh,
They're
yes.
creating the proposal, and would there be a dollar amount not to exceed? I don't know what the board would want to say, but in their proposal, whatever they're going to propose to us, they should have a scope of cost associated.
Yeah.
I would assume,
Yeah.
so. I don't know if you had that about.
And in terms of the funding, I can talk to that. Our policy says that we can spend up to $100,000 to do this kind of thing. And I guess if I was making the motion now, I'd say not to exceed, and I tend to be pretty stingy, so, there's a figure between 50 and 75,000 I might propose, but I certainly don't want to go to the maximum. But we have to see what they would propose so we know and what they charge, because we have no idea. But no, it would fall under that, and hopefully it would fall well under that. And I'd be looking to the superintendent and Ms. Ashley to tell us where we could move money for that. I know that the superintendent's budget has some discretionary for contractual stuff, but I don't know how much of that you've spent or any of that.
So
It's premature to talk about it, really.
yeah, for the contracted services, the bulk of the superintendent's budget is, nothing personal, gentlemen, in legal fees. I have gone back and looked at all of our legal fees for the past several months, and we are coming in under budget. But again, and very little has been spent on EC as well this year. I would caution us, because what we didn't build in this year's budget was fluff. And so I would be cautious that whatever money we take out will be money that I can't put directly into staff in schools either. And so I just want us to be a little bit cautious and careful about what we spend that money on. Now, I'm not spending money on outside consultants, I'm not spending money, but I also have to make sure that I don't run out either. So I think that would be the question that Ashley and I would need to take a little bit of time to see where that would work. And I know this is probably not appropriate, but I would wonder if they could work on a contingency basis that says if they come in and audit our stuff, they get paid if they find money that we didn't sort of maximize. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but
We can ask.
Another good idea.
Great idea.
I was wondering if it wouldn't, and I know we have to address the motion in a second, but I wonder if this wouldn't be better handled at the finance committee level and then brought to the board, instead of the board trying to, do it up here. I mean, maybe that finance committee, which is made up of 5 out of 7 members anyway, could hear of this whole thing and then bring their recommendation to the board. But that's We have a motion and second in front of us, so let's move forward on that. So we have a motion and second for, what's the name of the group again, please?
School Operations Specialist, abbreviated SOS.
SOS.
Save our
to,
schools.
To give us a proposal. First and second, any other discussion? Ms. Walker, I see.
Does the proposal cost money or no?
No.
No, the proposal doesn't cost money, okay.
No.
Okay, so this is, all we're doing is just saying, hey, let's find out what it would cost us.
Yep. Mr. McManus?
I think everybody probably remembers this if you, or heard it, have heard it if you weren't at the meeting. But everyone that was at that meeting about the budget, we have a very limited window here for a bond referendum.
Mhm.
And we left with the understanding that hopefully, at least from my purview, that the county commissioners and the board would meet to try to make this maybe even at their place to get this thing resolved, because if we don't get that bond, then whatever. When's that review of New Hanover, the integrity of the building and all the buildings, et cetera? When's that start?
It is, we are putting them under contract as we speak.
Okay.
I will send that, I'm planning on having that contract on December 14th, just for information, so you'll, you can look at it, when you're around required for approval, but I want to bring it back to you.
How long does that process take?
6 to 9 months to begin.
So,
We're already starting to
Yeah.
put a calendar together.
And just to say, for those of you who weren't there, one of the things that we heard twice was if the voters, because the bond has to go to voters, and the county commission don't trust us to handle our finances, then they'll never vote for a bond. So this is one of those kind of clear the air kind of deals, wellness kind of thing. Are we doing everything right? Is there anything, any way we can get more money from the state, more money from the federal government, that kind of thing. So it's a good, I just think of it as before and after. It's going to be a good breaking point. That's in our past. Now we're going forward. We've got to, we've got all our ducks pointed in the right direction, and it will help us with the bond process.
And Ashley has really redesigned the budget process itself to be more interactive and supportive to the community and to the school and be more transparent. I think that's going to be a key piece in developing that as well.
Yes.
Ms. Bowie, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Barnhart?
Yes.
Ms. Mason?
Yes.
Ms. Bradford?
Yes.
Ms. Craybill? Mr. McManus?
yes.
Mr. Wildebohr?
Yes.
And Ms. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll do that. We are running short on time, board members. I just want to note that to everybody real quickly. And Jared, if you'd please join us, sir.
Good evening. I only need about 90 minutes to discuss school improvement plans, so let's get at that. Thank you for taking time to allow me to present these today for the 24-25 school year. As you are aware, every 2 years the state requires us to present school improvement plans to our local board for approval. This is also covered under our own board policy, policy 3430. So for the past few years, we've been using a platform online called NC Star for us to create our individual school improvement plans. This platform allows us to create plans that are not put in a 3-ring binder and stuck on a shelf for 3 years. If you've been a principal for maybe longer than 10, you remember what it was like to, and Mr. Wildebohr, we remember what that's like, to create that plan, put it in a 3-ring binder, get approval, stick it on a shelf, and then not look at it again until another 2 years have passed, and then we pull it off, dust it off, and then check to see if we actually accomplished our goals. Now NC Star is allowing us to have this as a living, breathing document. This is something that changes over time and something that evolves as the school gets more information, more data, sees new challenges, and has opportunities for growth over the course of time. So what you have is a snapshot of the plans and action steps that schools are currently taking. It looks like a lot. It's about 94 pages in the PDF that you have. But really what this does is it kind of shows how the schools are adopting their goals and then how they plan to put them into action over the coming years. So as, again, these plans change, the NC Star platform changes with it. And there are two items that are important for you to note before I walk you through how to access one of those for the viewing public. The first is that you are going to be asked in just a minute to give us approval to continue with the school improvement plans as they are. And that's going to be for all of our schools. However, you're going to see the low-performing schools come back up again in late November. This is because the state requires us to present these to you and then open them up to the viewing public for 30 days to receive feedback. And then we take that feedback under consideration before resubmitting them to you in late November and then uploading them for final submission in December. And then the second thing is that all of these plans are actually already available, and anyone can go online and see them and see how they are going to impact the schools over the course of time. So Ms. Baggy helped me out a little bit today. I'm going to give you a quick example. This is Anderson Elementary's website, and this is available for every single person in our viewing public. If you were to go to the About Us section and then click on School Improvement, there it will take you to a page that has a link for NC Star with a guest, a username, and password. And when you click that, it will open up to this section. And from here, you as the viewing public can go in and out of the school improvement plan. You can look at our direction, the goals, the summary report, all of it is there. Ms. Baggy has already opened the goals and performance measures for Anderson Elementary, and this is a good example. Their first performance measure, or in our case, what we would say their first goal, is that less than 10% of their students will have office discipline referrals over the next year. Okay. So they have baseline data that says last year 25% of their school may have received a referral, and this year they want to lower that number to 10%. And the documentation that you have, the PDF, lists out the action steps and what that they are going to take to accomplish that goal. Now, it also shows that we have to monitor this, sometimes weekly, bi-weekly, quarterly, monthly, but the goal of the goal is that we can track our data throughout this year and next, change as we see fit, because what if we hit 10% in year one? Then we can lower that to 8 or 7 or 6% and not feel like, okay, we've accomplished and we're just going to be stagnant for the next year. That's where the living, breathing part of this comes in. So at this point, what we have are all of our schools having reviewed their school improvement plan with their school improvement team. Their principals have signed off on it, and the executive directors for those schools have all reviewed these plans. And we believe that these plans are going to continue to show the growth that we have seen over the last few years here in Hanover County. And our next thing is that I'm opening it up for questions from you, and then we're looking for possible motion to approve and move forward.
As I remember, when Star, they used to have, at least I think they used to have who was responsible, and I don't see in there who was
Yes, sir.
responsible.
So that's actually in the action step PDF that you guys have. It would list the person responsible for each one of those. I believe the very first one on the PDF is Blair. And if you open that up, it will list out all of the individuals that will be responsible for accomplishing that task. So each month, every school is required to have a school improvement team meeting. And at that meeting, those individuals that are responsible for those items are required to speak out about what action steps have been accomplished, what action steps need to be audited or added, and how we can move forward.
I just saw it now. Thank you.
I just want to say, well, reading through this, I loved reading about the communication, consistency, collaboration, because that's really what it's all about. To accomplish these goals, you have to have a system in place. And so I read through a lot of the details of the 94 pages and just grateful to see who was doing what and how they were going to be walking through the process. But there's a lot of good hard work, and I'm excited to see the growth.
There is. We're very happy with the work that they've done, and I do have to give a shout out to a lot of our principals are really into this. They like to see it as measurable data, things that can prove that we're continuing to grow, and not just what you see on an NC report card. It's great to have those numbers of student achievement, but it's also great to know that our parents think we communicate very well with them. It's great to know that we are working hard on discipline data and putting things in place that support being proactive about behaviors in schools. School improvement plans cover all of those things.
Other questions, board members?
I make a motion to adopt the school improvement plans as presented.
We have a motion to accept.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign.
No, I must have a walk.
What?
Sure.
He wants to stay a little
Oh. I'll still go with 6.
I want to hear the rest of the school. Right.
Just keep going all through all of them.
Was that a serious no?
No, sir.
Okay, I didn't think it was. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure.
I can't believe that you asked me a serious question.
6-0. Next, we have the NCSBA delegate. And it said my name, but I think Ms. Barnhart was the one that actually brought this forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's something that myself and a couple of my colleagues had emailed you about. But every year, the NCSBA has a delegate conference, and this year, the conference is at the end of November. They believe that New Hanover County is allowed to nominate 4 delegates to be voting members in it, and so I just didn't want to miss our opportunity to nominate some delegates. And with that,
And just to be totally transparent, Ms. Crable, and I guess she's not on right now, has also emailed me and asked me because she would also like to be considered. So, that being said, I guess we open the nominations.
yeah, I mean, I know that we have members rolling off, and so I want to first give the opportunity. I would make a motion for the 4 that will continue on to be delegates if they want that opportunity. That would be myself, Ms. Bradford, Ms. Mason, and Mr. Wildebohr, and I would make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That's a 6-0. We've discussed at length the committee reports, or we haven't, but would you like to further share with us? Ms. Bradford?
Just really quickly, you know, those in attendance were, besides McManus, Barnhart, Wildebohr, Sutton, Dr. Barnes, Eddie, Philip Sutton, Jenna Lennon from Mary C., Kay Clark from Murray, County Manager Chris Coudray, the CFO Eric Creedle, and along with 2 of the senior members, Lisa Wurtzbacher, I'm going to mess these names up, Amanda Kirchsowek, she's the new county budget director, and the CEO from the Chamber of Commerce, Natalie English, along with presenters Charles Boney, and coming along with him was Matt Bramstead, who is our K through 12 LS3P representative now, and then another architect firm talking to us about public-private partnerships, Robbie Ferris, and then, of course, we had our esteemed board attorney, Brian Kromke. And we started out the gate with a presentation from Eric, and it just was gangbusters. It was a really great meeting, and it's a shame that it wasn't videoed because it was definitely Bond 101. Eddie did a brilliant presentation, brought great handouts, and the county was very engaged. And I got a message from them saying they're looking forward to our next meeting. So I'm really pleased that it went so well, even though I can't say names as well as I'd like to. So that's my committee report.
Wasn't there a TV camera on the whole time?
There was.
I don't
Who
know
was
which
that,
one it
ECT or AY?
Oh, no, I was there too, but just for the record. I don't think you
Did I
mentioned
not
me.
say you?
I don't think so.
I thought you did. I thought she did at the time.
It's fine. No, I
Yeah,
don't remember a
Walker and
TV camera being there.
Yeah, it was right there, but they never gave us any TV coverage.
But they wanted to interview you, but you didn't.
Well, Dr. Barnes to interview, but they did mention that $500 million number.
Oh,
in
yeah,
this
about fell out my chair.
Oh, yeah, those WWR.
Yeah, about fell out my chair on that one. And the fact that we do have a bond limit, which I'm glad we know now.
Yeah.
A cap, because
Yeah.
that's going to weigh in very heavily about how much money we get to have a bond on. And if they're considering any other bonds, which I hope not. I think this is a main bond that I think by statute, the county is responsible.
Well, I think the report that Eddie made really showed the needs in our county at great length.
With that, I make a motion to adjourn? Oh, okay.
And I will second
He
that.
said he wanted to stay.
No, we don't.
Mr. McMahon said he
We're
wanted to
supposed to
stay.
finish at 5.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn, and we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, board members. Thank you to everyone else for being here.